Hey everybody, if you want to support the podcast, we have coffee. 9FiveAdventures coffee in K-Cups, whole beans, or grounds. You can also get it at indiescoffee.com, the only place to get. And we're off and running again. Here we go. Whew. So, redo. You're running from Las Vegas, from College Station to Las Vegas for the music festival.
Yes.
And where's the music festival?
So I had a friend who had some land out in Snook, about 10, 15 minutes away from town. And he's got a couple of acres out there. So our plan was to host the music festival out there and hopefully get with a ride-sharing organization like Uber or Lyft and have it just no driving, no parking, rides only, and then get with A&M and see if they'll give us their buses too.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
We wanted to be the first one of those festivals where transportation wasn't an issue for you to get to the show. Because you're already paying so much for tickets, accommodation if you're coming in from out of town. Then you got to pay for parking. So one of the things we wanted to try and do was get with a ride-sharing company and see if they would help us out, which would help them out too.
Yeah, give them lots of money. It makes sense. So you like team up with everybody. You're not trying to bring the artist in. The show's already planned, right?
So what we were trying to do was raise money through Kickstarter, raise 100 G's, and the 100,000 was mainly for production, just to produce the show, from staging to lighting, staffing, security. And then through my website, I had a sponsorship package, and we wanted to leverage the interest on the Kickstarter with corporate sponsors. So if we raised the 100K, it would give me leverage to walk to a Bud Light and be like, hey guys, listen, folks really want this to happen. The Kickstarter has grown.
Yeah.
You guys should come in as a sponsor. You'll be the sole vendor for booze.
Yeah.
And so that's where our leverage was.
I got you.
So we had a sponsorship package on my website, and then individuals would donate through Kickstarter to raise the 100 G's.
Right on. And they get these fancy shirts that we're wearing right now.
That was some of the merch.
I'm so stoked to have it. Like after watching it. So
cheers.
You documented the whole thing on Instagram, and I was following thanks to Kim, and I was like, man, I'm into this thing. Like this is super cool, man. I mean, awesome. All the things you got to, and I've traveled that exact line that you're running.
Oh, nice. So you knew.
Yeah, I was actually going to tell you. I was like, that's why I sent you that message. Are you in Williamson, Williams, Arizona?
Because I do remember that. We stayed there.
Yeah, there's a cool breakfast spot downtown. I was like, hey man, hit it up before you go running.
We did stay there.
Yeah. So it was just neat to watch and see. And you're not a runner, are you?
No, I run occasionally. I've done a couple of marathons. Before, but nothing close to what I was planning on doing. Nothing close to that. I've read, I'd say I run about 2 a year. I run about 2 marathons a year. I started about 4 or 5 years ago, just running 5-6 miles every day. And so I enjoyed it. And in my head, I said, you know what, this would be pretty badass to run in Las Vegas. But I didn't quite know what I was getting into.
I love it, dude. That's awesome that you had you're like, oh man, I just have this idea. I'm gonna go with it.
You just gotta go.
Yeah.
And I just looked into my bag of tools of what I had to accomplish the festival, and I was like, man, I can run. There's one thing I know I can do for sure is run. But the challenge was the 45 days and the 45 marathons. That was the challenge. And the idea behind that was, it was so audacious to do that I figured it would get people's attention.
Yeah, but then, I mean, you think most people can't take off work for 45 days.
So for me, it's a little easier just being in College Station. The DJ business kind of slows down since the college kids aren't here. And so that's why everybody was like, why would he do it in the summer? It was just the perfect time for me. And then we wanted to execute the festival and a year away from the run. And we knew the run would end, beginning of August, which is when we would want to do the festival next year, 2020 in the fall.
Makes sense.
So it just worked out perfect.
Yeah.
It worked out perfect.
So 45 straight days of running marathons. How's your body feel after
2 days ago, it felt horrible. It was trying to adjust. It's feeling a lot better, but I'm still super sore. Super sore.
So running a marathon a day, does it ever get to a point where like your body's kind of used to that feeling?
No. I say that about 26 miles. I think I respect ultra runners so much because every time I get to 26, no matter how much I've trained, it hurts. It hurts a lot. It hurts a lot.
It hurts a lot.
Yeah, it sure does.
You were so happy in your videos, dude.
I had to be. I mean, the alternative was be upset and come home upset. Yeah. Not having finished. So tried my best to stay positive. That's the only way you can survive out there.
It also seems fun, though.
It does.
In some sort of way. I mean,
it's the adventure in it.
Yeah. You may seem like torture, but it seems like I'm looking at it like, man, I sure would like to do something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe not running because I'm not a fan of running that much. But
something challenging, right?
Yeah. At the same time, I may want to run like that because that's a cool way to get to, like, you ran to Las Vegas. Like, you know what I mean?
When you say it like that, yeah, it sounds crazy.
Yeah, it does. But it's like, oh, the things you get to see along the way, like good and bad. I mean, you get to see kind of like a raw version of where everybody's passing by in such a hurry and so fast. You get to see it and take your and take it in. You know, like you get to see all the litter on the side of the road. You get to see the way people treat each other when they're driving or when they're traveling or when they're stopped. You know, you get to see a lot of different things. That's what's running through my head when I'm watching. Like, how cool would it be to see that in slow-mo?
Absolutely.
You know?
And whenever I talk to anybody on the phone about my journey, that's one thing I told them is it's so crazy the stuff you see that you wouldn't see if you were going 75 miles an hour in a car.
Yeah.
How many people are on their phones? And how many people are not concentrating? You see everything on the road. You see litter, like you said, wildlife. So a lot of roadkill.
A lot of roadkill. They don't even know what's coming. They're like, uh-oh. We went to when we went to Big Bend. I used to live out in the country, so I was like used to seeing dogs, get hit by cars, my dogs, and it tore me up a lot, when I was little. And then you kind of like, oh man, you get sad, but then you get used to that, seeing that. I guess if that sounds weird to say, but when we went out to Big Bend, there's rabbits everywhere, and they don't know that that's a car. They're just trying to beat these lights coming across, and I mean it's like, and you're like, Kim's like, oh no, what happened? I was like, we can't swerve the car because of a rabbit. If we did, we'd be in a ditch because look at them, there's thousands of them.
And that's exactly what happens.
So yeah, I'm sure you get to see a lot of that.
And that was kind of scary. Was we took off at about 3 or 4 in the morning is when we try to get on the road. So,
every single day?
Just to beat the sun.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you've been out there. You know what the terrain is like. You know what the temperatures get to. And so we wanted to beat that. So we'd take off, while it was still dark. And like you talked about that roadkill trying to cross the street and people swerving. That was...
Oh, man. I didn't even put that. Like, I thought about people swerving in the text messages, because people, cyclists get hit all the time. But I didn't even think about the swerving for animals, and you're running and they're like, human.
Absolutely. It's scary. Then also I understood the fatigue with some of these truck drivers, because you would see them just get off the road for a bit. It's just fatigue. And that's another thing. Some people are on that road for hours. Man. And so that's scary too, because you lose a little bit of concentration.
I can tell you that from firsthand experience, because I drive a lot.
Okay.
I drive like 65,000 a year.
Oh, wow. And
there's times like, man, it just gets old. You see the same thing. I'm not traveling those truck drivers aren't traveling to all the time to the prettiest places.
Yes.
And it just gets like,
these stretches of nothing,
and you get tired.
Absolutely.
You get really tired mentally. That mental strain is probably harder than physical strain. Yes. At some points in time. Yeah,
I learned that too on this journey. Mentally, I was exhausted.
So, what? I guess, man, you're running. What are some of the craziest things that you got to see on this trip? Like, some of the most memorable things.
I saw some interesting graffiti. The roadkill and the smell that came from the roadkill because of the heat.
Oh,
that was horrible.
That's pretty. If you're downwind, it's like, oh no.
Oh, man, that was horrible. And then the pee bottles. There were so many pee bottles, and I know a lot of them come from the truck drivers. And
really?
I'm under the assumption that they have times they have to keep from pickup to drop off, so they can't stop as often. And so these guys just pee in bottles and until it gets full, and then they just chunk it out the window, and some of them bust open, and it just sits there in the sun.
And you know, and those truck drivers' diet.
Horrible.
Not good.
Gas station food.
And not drinking just water.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. That's got a lot of toxins.
That was tough to deal with. But just being out there was nice. It was pretty.
Yeah.
It was pretty, and I'd never been that route before.
Ever.
Never.
Isn't that northern part of Arizona awesome?
So pretty.
I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I've never been in the northern part until 2 years ago. We spent Christmas we went to Grand Canyon, Zion National Park, spent Christmas there, and then went to Bryce Canyon and came back home.
People make it sound like just desert, but it's got really pretty texture.
Yeah, it does. And the people are nice.
They are.
Yeah, I liked it. I the weather, the climate, the people, like the area was nice.
Williamson, like we spoke about earlier, that was really nice.
Yeah, I thought
so
too.
Town.
Yeah, it is a little town. You're like, oh man, I don't know about this. You know, we stayed in there's not a lot of hotels in that little town. No. So we stayed in we stopped there because we're going to the Grand Canyon, and it's late at night. You know, we left here at 2:30 in the morning because we like to drive them when the sun goes down. We stopped there, so we pushed hard and we made it to Williams, and we're like, I hope this isn't a sketch hotel. You know, we're just going off that. Then we got up in the morning, and it's just a nice little town.
It's gorgeous.
And the people were cool. They have a little downtown area that's real nice.
We ate there.
Oh, yeah, you did?
Yeah, we had barbecue out there.
Yes. That's awesome.
A nice little town.
Yeah, I really like it. I wish I could have spent more time at Flagstaff because it looked cool. It was getting dark, and we didn't have a lot of time. We ate there, and then we made it to Williams.
It reminded me so much of Denver.
Really?
Flagstaff did.
That's awesome.
It was a pretty town, too.
Yeah? The people were cool there, too. But, so this, do you know who's going to be in this music festival already?
And that was one of our downfalls as far as funding. There's a saying, talent sells tickets.
Absolutely.
So with us not having a lineup or a roster of some big names or just names, period, it made it really hard for people to donate money. Because a lot of people kind of want to know, hey, man, I worked hard for this money. I want to know who I'm paying for, who I'm going to get to see. But we didn't have money to book artists yet. So what we did was we said, hey, listen, we need to raise money for production. And I'm trusting and hoping that you guys know I've been a DJ for a while in this town. I know who you would want to see. If we raise this money, I'll leverage my sponsorship package to get exactly who we'd like to see. That was one of our biggest downfalls, was we should have...
People had to just trust you.
That I would, if we raised the money through the Kickstarter enough to just have the show, that hopefully there would be a buzz about what we did and that we made our goal, and that would attract talent, or leverage the sponsorship to say, hey, listen, these people want to have a show in this town. You can make X amount of dollars if you come and do your vending. Please get us this artist. You'll make your money back, was what the plan was. Because I just, personally as a DJ, I just didn't have $150K to get, whoever
I don't have it either, and I'm not a DJ, just so you know.
Yeah. Right? And so that's the route we went. As I've told everybody, I've had a lot of time to think about mistakes I made and the things that I did really well in the run. We're out there for hours each day. And I think what I should have done, or what I could have done better, was reach out to a certain group of artists and have them commit to performing if we funded the project.
And while you're running.
Exactly.
While you're running, so they can follow your journey.
And then everything. Use that on social media to create more of a buzz because, hey, this artist said, hey, I'm going to perform if you guys help TJ Rob reach his goal of $100K for the production of the show. that would have been a lot different. And that's
Yeah.
one of the mistakes I made. So,
Gotcha. So what sparks this? Like, have you always, as DJ, always been your thing?
So I went to A&M. I played rugby at A&M actually.
Oh, that's awesome! I love
I played
rugby.
at
I'm not
A&M.
like
It's awesome. A lot of our guys do CrossFit, and that's how we trained in college.
Oh, okay.
I think it was Black Box. I don't know if they're still.
Yeah. No, they're not still around, but yeah, that was.
Two of their trainers would come train the team, and so that's what we did for a while. So I played rugby at A&M, and while I was in college, that was my job. Was that I was a DJ. I first started off as a bartender at one of the local bars here in town, and then I would play the music as I bartended, and we ended up being the busiest floor every time I would bartend. And so the owner came up to me and he was like, "Hey man, you should probably take DJing more seriously than bartending. You probably would make more money." And so I took up DJing and I got on YouTube. I taught myself. I actually reached out to a local DJ for mentorship and somebody just get me through the ropes and get me started. And all he said was, "I have equipment for sale."
That's
it. That's all he said.
He
didn't want to help me
wasn't
out. He didn't want to help me
all?
out. So
Is that the culture? Is that the culture of DJs like in small, not in small
towns?
I mean, in small.
I agree. That's what it was.
I don't know if it's small town or if it's on a smaller level.
For me, I felt like it was a small town, and the pizza was kind of small, and I was taking a slice.
That's what
and we don't have as many bars, and there's not as many gigs at the time. It was a small town then. It still is, but there wasn't as many bars to play in. And so I figured that's why he felt that way. So thank God for YouTube. I got on YouTube and I figured out what equipment to buy. And I had a good library of music. I've always loved music, thanks to my folks and MTV, I guess. And so I've always loved music. So I had a good library of music. And all I needed was the hardware and the software. And then I just taught myself. So
you just figured it out.
I was self-taught.
That's awesome.
Played for a while in college. I left. I moved to San Antonio for about a year, then moved to Houston. I worked for Red Bull. I was in sales. Great company, but just I didn't like the position.
Man, sales.
It's tough.
I did commission only food service stuff for a while, and while I would not want to go back to that job ever, it taught me so much.
Agreed.
It really does. It's like the best education you can get when you have to figure something out.
And
like there's no rule book. There really is no rule book. You have to make people like you.
Correct.
They're complete strangers because 7 other people sell you the same exact thing at the same exact price.
Very true. And you have to get used to getting told no.
Yes.
You have to
Oh my gosh.
You have to get used to getting told no. So I guess I didn't want to get used to getting told no. So I reached out to a friend and I said, "Hey man, I have a crazy idea, but I'm a big festival goer, and I think we lack that in College Station, especially because the people who attend these shows are the millennials. It's 18 through 35, and that's a big demographic in College Station. And there's no reason why these kids should be traveling to Houston, out of state, Austin to go to these shows when we can host something similar."
And there's a lot of people here. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of people here.
And the university's not going anywhere, so there is a market for live music. And so he said, "But dude, that's a really good idea. Why don't you come out here and brand yourself, see if you still have a following of people wanting to see what you're doing and what your projects are, and then we'll go from there." So I got in town. I got with a good friend of mine, Martin Hooper. He's the guy who designed my logo. Did a phenomenal job. And so I started to brand myself. I put up billboards, yard signs. The t-shirts got really popular, and I started to build this brand. And then that's when I let people know what my intentions were, which was to make a transition from DJing, which I do love, but start booking talent and bring more live entertainment to Bryan College Station.
So you've had a goal about doing that for a while then?
About 2 years now.
That's pretty cool.
Two and a half years.
Man, that's awesome. That it's neat the way you followed like the things that you love to do. You know what I mean? Like
it's scary, but
yeah. Oh well, yeah. And I've had this. I love that. I love. I don't want to say rolling the dice is a bad word, but I've the 1 year thing was with Chet Garner, the guy that does the Day Tripper,
Mm-hmm.
the Day Tripper guy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the crazy things was he was an attorney, so he's making tons of money. Like, he's making good money. I won't say tons of money. It sounds weird.
Right.
But he's making good money as an attorney, and he leaves that to do something that he loves, where he has to pay to do it and hope that it makes money. Like, he wasn't getting a paycheck. He wasn't getting anything in return. He had to pay, go do it, produce it, and then hope that thing made money after the fact. And that, when you think about that in that sense, it's like, oh, that's scary. But to him, he was like, dude, it was an easy decision. I loved it.
That's the best way. You completely 100% described what the run was. 100%. And that's exactly how it was. It was difficult. It was hard to explain to people why I would do it. I wasn't getting paid. I didn't get 45 medals at the end of this thing. And so it's really hard to explain to people, like, why would you put yourself through that? Why don't you just try and get a loan at a bank? Make this easier on yourself. No. You know, but it was enjoyable too. You know, like you said, part of it was fun.
How many people can say they ran to Las Vegas?
Right.
From College Station, Texas. You know? Like, you always hear about people doing bike rides across the country for a fundraiser or whatever. But, I mean, really, very few people have done that and experienced it. And now you have something under your belt that's like, nobody can take it away from you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. Like, it cost you time off.
It did.
You know, because you only make money if you're DJing.
Agreed.
So
my bank account will tell you that now.
Right. So I mean, you're basically like, this is just purely for the love and the passion and trying to get this thing off the ground. And I think that's what I loved most about it. It wasn't just some like advertisement, like, hey, look at me, I'm raising money for this fund. Look, and you know, it was legitimate. Like, no, I'm not making money while I'm doing this at all. And I'm running, and I've got to stay in hotels, and I've got to eat, and I've got to
agree.
You know, all that stuff. So that's one of the interesting parts. But so you can tell that you love it. You love, like, you enjoyed the run, even though it hurt.
It hurt.
You enjoy trying to bring these people into College Station, so that people here in your town can see music,
can enjoy it.
Yeah,
because I get to do it. Because I don't have, you know, many responsibilities with a home or, you know, a huge business. So I'm able to travel quite a bit and watch some of these shows. And I see people's reaction to live music and how they interact with each other and how it brings people closer. And that experience is something I really wanted to give my hometown.
That's awesome. So you were born and raised here?
No, I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya.
Kenya?
Uh-huh.
No wonder you can run.
We gave it away. Everybody now thinks I'm a cheat. This fraud.
No, please look at a picture of him. He does not look like a Kenyan runner.
So I was born and raised in Kenya, and my folks moved here. Oh, I forget when they moved here, but anyway.
Were you like really young?
No, I was about 16. 16. So I did my junior and senior year of high school in Houston, and I played for Katy Rugby high school team.
Yeah.
And that's how I got recruited to play rugby.
So how did your parents find their way from Kenya to Katy?
My dad actually went to college at Marquette. And I forget where my mom went to college, but they both met here in the States. Believe it or not, they're both Kenyan. And they both
What are the chances of that?
Right, I know. And the families knew each other too.
And there's for sure no Kenyan dating site.
No, there's not.
You know?
No, there's not. And so they both met here in college, and their families knew each other. Graduated college, moved back home, and then my dad's kids had aspirations to be bigger things, and financially it made the most sense for him to come back and find a job here. So he is a engineer for the city of Houston.
Wow.
And so we moved to Houston. My whole family moved here, and that's how I ended up at A&M.
Do you ever go back?
I haven't been back in a while. The closest I've been about 3 or 4 years ago, I went to South Africa. So my brother went to flying school in South Africa, and he wanted us to see where he went to school. So flew back to South Africa about 4 years ago. That's the closest to home I've been.
So do you think like your parents and their, like, obviously it takes a lot to go to Marquette, I would think, from Kenya.
It does.
Like, how do you get into Marquette from Kenya?
SATs, just like everybody else. And then you're an overseas student, so you get a student visa. And I think financially, my grandpa did well for himself.
Okay.
And so he was
that helped out. I mean,
on both sides. And my mom's dad did too, and so he was able to pay for them to go to school here.
But still, that's a trip.
It was. But the thing is, that's what separates the kids back home is that education. Did you get your education local, or did you get it overseas? Because if you did, it kind of validates you a little more.
So if you get your education overseas, there, you're like,
oh, you're the man.
You're the man.
Oh, you're the man.
Is the schooling like harder over there?
Absolutely. It was cake here.
High
school here was a good time.
I just had a guy on the podcast from Poland.
Oh, nice.
And he came over here at 18 for college. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that A&M was easier than his high school. That's what he told me. That's what he said. He's like,
it's more demanding for sure. Back home, especially the sciences and math, a lot more demanding.
When people think Kenya, I can tell you in my mind, I don't think education.
Mm-hmm. People think tourism.
Yeah, you don't think that. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty interesting to hear.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my dad came out here to be an engineer, and that's what he does. And he actually published a book last year.
Really? Mm-hmm. What's the book called? Let everybody know.
Hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked,
and it's on Amazon.
And it's on Amazon. Mm-hmm. What's it about?
It's about the effects of religion on African culture during colonization. So
Dude,
if we
if
had
on
our
Audible, I would download it right now. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. So Christianity, Islam, the effects of those during colonization on African culture.
I'm sold already. This is so cool. How awesome is that?
I thought it was badass. He did that too. I'm not gonna lie. I learned a lot about my dad in there.
Yeah,
and
from reading the book.
Mm-hmm. And kind of like you said, that's the one thing I took away from his book. He talks about it at the beginning of his book. Each one of us has a story, and this run was part of my journey. It was my story. So it might not be in a book, but it's with me forever.
What do your parents think about you running from this long journey of running 45 marathons in 45 days?
I can tell you, every time I got on the phone with my mom, she was like, you don't have to do it. You can just come back home. And then my dad, I don't know if he understood why I was doing it or what was going on, but he was like, just keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going. I don't know what you're doing.
What's he doing?
Right?
That's exactly whatever. Just keep going.
Just keep
whatever
going.
It is, just keep doing it. I love that.
Yeah. So it took a long time to allow for my parents to allow me to be myself. They're really big on education. My dad has his master's, and so they really wanted me to go to college, graduate, get a really good job. But I tell everybody I'm the hippie in the family.
You and me, this is why we get along. I'm definitely the guy that went off the rails.
Absolutely.
In my family.
I wanted to try everything. I was told not to. And I figured myself out. It took a while to get there, but I figured myself out, I think.
Yeah. Well, obviously. I mean, I just love the journey of hey, man, you're going to Texas A&M, playing rugby, nothing to do with DJing.
At all.
It's such a crazy...
So now you can imagine how my dad feels.
Yeah, and then you've got... now you're looking at now I want to be a promoter. Pretty much, right? A promoter of shows.
Absolutely.
So you want to start bringing in people, setting up shows.
Yes.
That's a legit skill. And some hard work.
It is.
I think people get an outside view and think that it's all, man, that person who is running that show, that is a lot of work.
It's a lot of sleepless nights too. Everybody sees the flash and he knows everybody and everybody knows him. It takes a minute to get to know those people.
Yeah, and they're like, oh man, this guy's staying with him. He knows him. He's so cool, man. Can you get me backstage?
Exactly.
Dude, do you realize
what it took?
I haven't slept in 6 days because I got guys I got to take out the trash. I need bartenders. I need to set up venues. I've got to have insurance. You've got everything, and everything goes wrong. Everything always goes wrong.
Yep.
And you have to fix it before anybody even notices.
Agreed.
So there's a lot of things that are behind the scenes that you're like, man, that's a tough job.
But believe it or not, that's the stuff that I think people who do what I'm trying to do enjoy the most. Is when stuff goes wrong and figuring it out.
Yeah.
I learned that too on the run. Nothing, I believe, goes as we plan. Nothing does. But I think the people that are successful are the folks that are able to adjust. Those are the most successful people because nothing goes to plan. I don't care what company we could talk about that started, be it Apple, Facebook, nothing went to how they drew it on paper. But the people who are able to adjust, it's a fun ride. It's a fun ride. And so I've gotten better at that. I've got a less stress. I just take things as they go. Things are going to happen.
Do you think that's because you like what you do? Do you
True.
think that's most of like being able to adjust on the fly and figure something out? I mean, obviously, I'm that type of person where I look at something and I'm determined to figure it out.
Yes.
And I always think that there is a way. It may not be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that way didn't work. We can go this way. But those things interest me, like puzzles. Puzzle pieces. Looking at it, I'll sit there and try to fix a puzzle, even if I'm stuck. Like almost when I'm stuck on a puzzle is when I get the most enjoyment out of the puzzle is to find it. So some of it is obviously the person, but then at the same time, if you love something, like you mentioned Apple and Microsoft, and, whatever business is, they loved it.
Agreed.
Steve Jobs loved it.
He did.
It was his passion, and so if you have that element in there, do you think that helps out with figuring out problems, and that's the fun part? Like when you fix something that you love, that's the enjoyment.
Completely. Like you said, a lot of it, and for me, it's because I enjoy it. I think of people who have jobs they don't enjoy. You do what you're supposed to do, and you don't go any extra. You're not trying to figure anything new out. But with DJing, especially when it came to marketing myself, I had to figure things out. I think I am better at marketing now in my life than I am at what I went to college for, because I had to figure it out. But I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. I loved figuring out, hey, if I put up this billboard, will it really work? Will I get the attention that I need? Will people understand what I'm trying to accomplish? And then it busts, and I'm like, okay, well, let's try yard signs. I loved that. I've loved every minute. It's been expensive, but I've enjoyed every minute of it.
So you built this following up in College Station, so people know who you are and you DJ. And you talk to the crowd.
No,
which
is so weird. My first DJ name was DJ Silent Bob. I can't tell you. You're gonna laugh. I was sitting at my girlfriend's house this morning, and I was like, babe. She goes, what? I'm really nervous about this podcast today. This is at 8 a.m. and me and you are going to meet more than 12 hours away. And it's just, I know what I'm good at, and public speaking isn't it. I'm trying to get better at it. But DJing just gives me that, I know I'm good at this. I don't have to talk. People are not here for me to talk. People want to have a good time. I just have once you come around the DJ booth, I do have a personality. I just don't have your radio DJ personality. Where I'm talking and I'm interesting and I'm telling you everything you want to hear. I just know what to play.
I think you're very interesting. I think you have so.
Cheers.
This thing, it's hard for people to be themselves on Instagram. And
whoa, that was hard.
And talk to you and talk on, and say some things where people want to follow. Mm-hmm. That's a difficult skill. I don't think people understand that either. Like how hard when people sit in front of this microphone, you talked about getting nervous. People sit in front of that and it automatically changes their demeanor and their personality. And like some people, they get nervous, and that's a natural, like human thing.
Yes.
There's a vulnerability with a microphone in your face.
Correct.
Because that thing's going out to everybody. That's me on this thing. Like, dude, when I hit publish, what I just said goes out everywhere. I told Kim, I sat on the couch the day after a podcast, and I went, this is such a crazy thing, because it's I'm confident, I feel good, I'm talking to people, and then I hit publish and I go, oh, wow. Man, what did I say? Right. How did it work? I hope that everybody likes it. Uh-huh. I hope I did the guest justice. Where did I go wrong? So there's a roller coaster of emotions there with that.
Agreed.
But to expand on your situation is, I didn't say anything growing up. I was silent. I mean, people thought I was a jerk all the time. I'm like the nicest dude in the world. I would help everybody out.
Yes.
But people thought I was a jerk because I didn't talk unless I got to know you. Well, how do I get to know you, man? I got to do an activity with you almost to get to know you, because I am like that. just silent. I didn't have anything to say. Like, people don't want to hear what I have to say anyway.
I feel you.
You know? And the sales job broke me out of that little shell. And I was scared to death of that job. And I needed it at the time. And so I forced myself to do it. And it felt like a long road. It really wasn't in actuality, but it felt like a long road. But once I figured it out, I was like, I like this. Like, I really enjoy getting to know people. I don't enjoy selling you something. I enjoy what you have to say back to me. Like, I enjoy talking to you. And so that's what I figured out that I liked. And I can see a lot of that. Like, you just be you, and I mean,
it'll work out.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Dude, hearing about what your personality is like makes me feel like I wish I had asked him to do this run with me before I took off. Because that's what it is. Oh. That's what it is. Getting on the road, not knowing, but just having a positive attitude. Like, I'm going to meet some people. I'm going to chat. We're going to get along, or we're not, but we're going to keep it moving. And every day, I didn't know what was coming. I had no clue, whether it was bad weather, whether it was getting flicked off by a truck driver in Arizona. I had no clue.
So what kind of weather did you run into? Not to take this off the track, but I mean, that's
Texas. Before we left, there was a number of storms. So, in fact, a couple of days, which I got a lot of not very nice messages about. I had about 2 or 3 days where I had to run in the treadmill because when we took off to go run outside, it was raining. It was horrible. And my goal when I left here was to finish. I didn't care how I did. I remember telling people if I had to buy a wheelchair on Craigslist, I would. But my goal was to finish. And so putting myself in danger, being 5 feet away from oncoming traffic in the rain was not worth. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody.
You're not trying to die.
And so what I did was I promised everybody I would document the miles, with timestamp pictures and post them. And it rubbed. I don't even watch Iron Cowboy on Netflix. It's the guy who did 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. Well, we just watched it when we got back. It was.
I didn't know that was on there. I gotta watch it now.
Oh, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. But anyway, he had the same thing where he was in Houston and they had what was the hurricane in Houston not too long ago? Harvey. And so he couldn't cycle. He couldn't go outside. So he had to do it on a treadmill. He got a lot of bad press for it. But that's one thing we had to deal with when we talk about weather in Houston. We had about 3 days, so we had to do 26 miles on the treadmill, which was brutal. If anybody knows, running on the treadmill is way harder than running outside.
I do.
It's consistent. It's actually way worse. You can't slow down. It's the same pace for every hour until you have to change over.
And the scenery doesn't move.
Oh, absolutely. And you get tired of watching ESPN 30 minutes on 30 minutes on 30 minute cycles.
Yeah, there's no. Yeah, TV doesn't do it. Like there's something about being outside in nature. That's why I don't like running, but I like trail running. I can run all day long because trail running you don't know what's around the next step, and it keeps my ADD in check. Maybe if you want to say whatever you want to call it, it keeps that the things moving by. But for some reason, you'll run on a track. I mean, you can. That's for the bees, man. You don't have that. Those.
Agreed.
And some of those ultra people.
That's how they train.
It's on a track. You're running 200 miles on a track in a circle.
Some mental toughness.
Totally. That's what I respect about it, and that's why I tell you why I loved having Paul Watkins on, because there is a mental thing that I appreciate with those people, because it's not the steroids. There's no performance enhancing drug that can just be like, oh man, this is going to help you so much in this. No, it's mental, man.
Agreed.
You got to be mentally strong.
I learned that 100%, and it came in, I'd say, after the first week.
So what did you tell yourself? What are some of the things you don't want to run, and then how does that work with you?
After the first week, especially after, maybe more than a week when I got on the treadmill too, my calf was killing me. Actually, every muscle in my body was hurting. Everything was hurting. And then because it was a 2-man team, we had to make our Walmart runs right after I got done running. So I'm making this run. We're trying to find food to eat. So my sleep time is maybe 6 hours, if that, just because when I get back, I'm trying to do
the whole trip, the whole 45 days.
Oh yeah, there was very few nights I got 8 hours plus.
You started 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you're looking at.
And when I get back, I'm not sleepy. I'm not, sleepy. I want to do some recovery. I'm trying to watch some TV, and it's because it's daylight. It's harder to sleep, but so I wouldn't get as much sleep as I'd like, and that made it hard to take off in the morning. So it sucked. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to go home and sleep. But I'll tell you, over this 45 days, so it's longer than 45 days, almost 2 months, I think I grew mentally tough more than anybody that I know. And I had to. I had no choice. The weather was changing. I was away from family. I was away from my dogs. I was away from my friends. I was in the middle of nowhere. I remember waking up multiple times and looking at the Kickstarter, and we were sitting at 2%. So we were sitting at $2,500, and our goal was 100,000. And it's so discouraging. It is like the worst mental state you could be in, knowing that you have to do this again in the morning.
So you see that Kickstarter, and you're like, dude, what if I run to Vegas and I have $2,200 in the bank?
That went on for 30 plus days. I can't tell you how many times I thought to myself, like, I'm just going to tell people I fell, and I couldn't keep going. I thought about every excuse on these runs is why I shouldn't do this, because people want, and you'll see it when you watch Iron Cowboy, because he goes through the same thing. He is trying to raise money. I forget what his cause was, but he was trying to raise $1 million, and then day 35, he had less than $7,500. And he's put himself through so much, and in your head you're thinking, man, this is one of the most selfless things I've done, and I'm not getting the response, so why should I even do it? But I'll tell you how I built my mental toughness. Something I learned a long time ago is if you just set small goals, just short-term goals on your run. It could be at home, but for me it was on the run. It helps tremendously. So for instance, I was hurting so bad, but I tell myself, okay, Rob, from where you're standing to that speed sign right there, just give it everything you got. Just go and don't stop. And no matter what happens, no matter how bad it hurts, just go. And when you get there, pull out your water bottle, walk, chill, relax, and constantly doing that, constantly giving yourself a pat on the back goes a tremendously long way to building your mental toughness. And it's translated with everything I've done. Just setting goals and saying, hey, you know what? This is all I got to do. And then I can chill. This is all I got to do, but I have to do it. That's what helped me along the way on the trip.
Yeah, turning that negative into a positive.
Completely.
Like you reversed it. You flipped it around and went like, okay, I'm hurting. This sucks. But I'm going to make it to there, and I'm going to reward myself. And then I'm going to set another goal.
That's it.
And then I'm going to set another goal. And it's going to suck. And then I'm going to be rewarded, and I'm going to win. And I'm winning, and I'm constantly winning. When really, like, your body's hurting and aching, you're tricking yourself.
Absolutely. That with a mixture of understanding what the goal was and who I was doing it for and what it would bring to the city of College Station.
But
that was huge.
At the same time, you're like, $2,200, man.
Dude, you get it.
Yeah.
It's brutal. Yeah. I'm like, I know I'm doing it for them, but they're not even helping me out.
Well, I mean, think about it from their perspective. Let's go and look at it. You're like, well, here's this guy from College Station. Mm-hmm. You're in a typical college town, I guess. Well, not typical, but it's different than others. But it's like, it's a college town. You have a lot of engineers, a lot of like wealthy people here that don't they don't want to go see a music show.
Agreed.
And they don't care that you're running to Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give that guy money. He's just trying to get money. Mm-hmm. Like, that's all he's trying to do. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at, so it's a hard sell on people, and I'm not blaming them. I'm saying from the outside looking in, it's tough to get behind somebody that's just randomly running for money to Las Vegas.
Agreed. So what my goal was, which is not how it went, was to display some resilience and passion that hopefully would translate to people as, if this guy's willing to do this, he's going to bring something brilliant. Like, if he's willing to put himself through this, and when he gets back, all he's got to do is make some phone calls to make this thing happen, here goes my $20, which is how I thought about it, what people would take it. But what ended up happening was the run became bigger than the cause. People didn't think about the festival. Like you said, people were thinking like, what they were sitting around with popcorn watching. Is he gonna do it? Is he gonna make it? What happened? What's going on with the drama today?
Yeah.
So it became about the run, and it stopped becoming about the festival, which kind of hurt me. I'll be completely honest.
Did it hurt, or was it? I mean, it's a byproduct of. You have to post it and you have to document because you've got to get people to follow. Because honestly, I don't think people are going to care. When you talk about branding, like you had to brand yourself as a DJ.
Correct.
And this run was for this, but you've got to brand it, and that brand is you. So people are if they don't care about you, they're not going to give you money.
True.
Because then they don't think that it's genuine.
Agreed.
But as soon as they go, man, this Rob guy, look at what he's doing. I really am invested in Rob. So I don't care about the music festival as much as I care about Rob running to Las Vegas. So here's my money.
True. But it's twofold because I know you're, I think, maybe I might have heard his name on one of your podcasts, David Goggins.
Oh, I love David Goggins. I just finished his book, by the way.
Yeah, I did too.
Holy
I listened on the
smokes.
run. He's the man.
Dude, when I work out now, I even told Kim, I was like, when I work out, I like, there was a run the other day with med ball. I was tired. I mean, I'm giving it everything I had. And I went, I don't want to do this. And it was uphill with a 20-pound med ball. And I told myself, oh, you said you don't want to do it? I'm sprinting. I sprinted until I almost died. And I'm like, this is like 3 workouts in a row where I have literally gone, I can't give anymore. And I go, oh, no, yes, you can. You can not only do that, you can do it at 100% now. Just because of listen to that. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah.
And he's a regular guy.
And he tells you, he's like, I was stupid the way I did it. Like, don't do it the way I did it.
He does say that in his book.
But
don't try
mental toughness.
Agreed.
The lessons in the book.
Man, Goggins' book helped me push through this thing quite a bit. We actually tried to reach out to him, but he's busy. Not very big on social media too. He'll post, but I know he doesn't follow anybody, which is good. You know, it tells me he's there for the right reasons. But
he's been doing this for a long with nobody watching.
Exactly.
And
I love it.
I really think some people have pushed him to do this other stuff so that he can make some money. Because I really don't think he would have done it on his own.
I completely agree.
I get that from him. The whole thing, like he does not care about
the cameras,
the publicity,
the interviews,
nothing.
Agreed.
That dude literally just wants to go out and test himself.
One thing like I was saying, he talks about, just twofold with what we were saying is, I'll be honest with you, also when you try and do something that most normal people can't do, it rubs some people the wrong way. You know, some people feel like, man, here's this guy going out there trying to make himself better, and I'm sitting here at work, and I don't like my job, and my boss is bitching me out, and I got to go pick up the kids at 6 o'clock, and this guy gets to run around in the sun. Some people just don't like that. It doesn't make them, and it doesn't sit well with them. And I think that also came across, and all those things it was just different feelings I was going through, and it's very hard to want to display that on camera, because then you come off as needy and whiny, and everybody's sitting back like, you're the one who decided to do this. Yeah. So it was a very tough balance of trying to let people know what I was going through so that they could invest in me and be invested, like, hey, man, this dude is badass. Yeah. Or keep doing it and make them feel bad about their lives and why they're at their job when they should be doing something and chasing their passion.
That's why people got mad at your treadmill.
Absolutely. And it gave them an opportunity for them to poke at my project. Yeah. 100%.
But then so I all the time play like movies out in my head while I'm driving because I have a lot of windshield time. So my imagination goes crazy. Nice. And I constantly think like, man, the first time I get a negative comment about something, I'm going to be ecstatic because that means I'm doing something. Yes. You know what I mean? So you got negative comments. Back to back. You're a superstar, man.
I wouldn't say that, but I did. I even got some hate mail. I did.
No way.
I did got some. I got some really. I read it almost every day I was out there. Somebody sent me a really tough email about what I was doing.
The whole journey, or just the treadmill part?
No, the whole journey. And why would I do this?
Why would they take the time to do that?
That's my point.
Have you ever wondered that? Like,
But you have internet heroes, people who sit on their computers and can say whatever.
This is why I have a problem with like believing Yelp reviews.
True.
Who's gonna take the time? I would never take the time to do it. You know what I
tell
mean?
my friends, but I'm not gonna take my time to go on that platform,
and trash it. Like,
Absolutely.
what if it was just a one-time account?
Agreed. And you've probably been there multiple times, but this just rubbed you the wrong way.
Yes. Like, you just happened to come in when a waiter was having their bad day or whatever. But then you're running this whole journey. You're not doing any damage to them.
And that's
what
how
are you
I
doing
felt.
to them?
That's exactly how I felt.
If you don't like it, don't donate.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you what is even worse. Some of it came from close friends. No. Some of it came from people I've known for a very long time. And I think that's what hurt the most, because in my head, I assumed they knew who I was and they knew like this was very selfless. But I think it rubbed them the wrong way, and they felt, here goes this one guy who is part of us, part of our family, and he's leaving. He's stretching himself out to be better, and we're just going to stay here, and we're not doing anything. Whereas in my head, I saw it as, support me and I'll pull you up. Let's do this together. But,
it is so, not to bring it back to that book, but that's one thing David Goggins that stuck out in that book was all the people, like when he was talking, I think it was the pull-up challenge.
Yes.
I think it was it.
When he was at the gym.
All the people that are hating on him and coming out, that's insecurities.
100%.
Their insecurities are coming out through this hate towards, and it may not have been that part in the book, so if somebody wants to correct me, they can. But he was pointing out like that all the hate and the everything that goes across is other people's insecurities. Like, I can try and fail. It doesn't hurt you, but you're insecure because you're not doing anything. You are sitting behind the keyboard and you're thinking, I would like to, but I haven't, and it's my fault that I haven't done it.
And then here's your close friend doing it. It's like, dude,
that's even worse.
That hurts.
That's not like the internet people.
That hurts. And so it's something I had to deal with, and I couldn't spit out any negativity because it would translate to the run. I'd get tired, I'd get injured. So that was tough. That's part of the mental toughness, was blocking that stuff out and getting back on in an Instagram live and saying, hey man, I'm having a great time. I'm out here. It was part of it. Yeah. It was part of it. Well, and to me, that was the toughest part. It wasn't the running. It wasn't the heat. It was dealing with, you'll see it in the Iron Cowboy. It was dealing with it with friends and family and some backlash, especially even like when I had the surgery. People were like, dude, just give it up.
So what did you say to them? You're good friends. Like, I want to know how you handle this situation because somebody posted a comment sending you hate mail, like, okay, whatever. I don't know you. When you know somebody, you're emotionally invested with them. It hits a little harder.
One of them I actually did bite back a bit. I did. And I remember saying something. I remember saying something along the lines of, have you ever done this once? Just one time. I plan on doing this 45 times. Have you even thought about doing this once? Because if you have, then, you're welcome to the table and we can chat. But if you haven't, and that was the worst of it. But then it got to a point where I knew it would affect my running. And I'd just be like, you know what? That's their opinion. Just keep it moving. You don't have to reply that text.
That's the trick.
You don't have to reply that post. Because you give them energy. Because that's what they want. They want something to talk about. They want something to go back and forth on whether the treadmill was a good idea or not. Maybe you should do this instead of that. I just don't. I just do what I did. And when I did this, there was no rules. I set the rules. So I didn't have to not go on the treadmill, I did what was best for my safety. And that was getting on the treadmill. So you don't have to like it. But unless you're going to come out here and do this with me, don't set the rules for me.
Nobody's going to do it. 45 days, 40. I mean, look how many ultra runners there are in the world.
It's not
a
lot.
Not
that many. I see what you're saying. There's not that many.
No. He talks in that book, like, he looks around and he can see every one of his competitors. He can look them all in the eye at the starting line.
And they all know each other.
Yeah. It's like, So, I mean, there's not a lot of people that are willing to run 45 days and 45 marathons in 45 days.
Yeah.
My brother ran one for the first time. I've never run one.
Yeah,
I've never run a marathon.
You should.
Obviously, Kim is super competitive. She's run them before and got into it.
She's done BCS, hasn't she?
She's done several.
Nice.
One was just to win a special jar of pickles.
No way.
And dude, she's the most competitive human in the world.
CrossFit is a perfect place for her then.
Yes, it is. It 100% is. She's the most mentally tough person that I know. That's what
awesome.
I say all the time.
That's awesome.
Because when she sees something, I say it like this. Somebody asked me like, "Oh, it's like you're gonna go until it happens." Like, oh no, not. There's no until. There's no maybes. There's no ifs. Those words don't ever come out of her mouth.
That's awesome.
Ever. It is. It happens.
There you go.
Like, it happens. Like,
maybe that's what I should have taken on the run, right?
And I have to be careful with what I say now because even going to a friend's house, like, oh yeah, we should go fishing. As soon as we get in the car, she goes, "You better set that trip up now."
There you go.
I do not like false promises.
There you go.
And it makes me like think about what I say, and also it's got me to actually take action.
Great.
You know, and I love doing it. So
awesome.
It's that little nudge, and I appreciate that mindset.
Yes,
Of
I do
that
too.
sort of thing. And so
too.
that's what you're doing. Like, and to block out all of that stuff and just say, I don't care what you think. It's ultimately like letting people decide your destiny. Like, hey, wait, you're not me.
Agreed. We don't have the same goals. You don't know what my intentions are. You're just watching.
Yeah, you went to A&M and you're sitting up in your little office and you're making your $150K.
Exactly.
What am I hurting you by? Like, I'm a DJ that's running to promote this thing that I love to do.
And that's the other thing, kind of like what you're doing here. That's another thing that is tough for some people. Is my buddy Martin talks about how some people don't like others to do more than one thing really well. And, you know, we come from a culture where you go to school, you graduate, you get this job, and you should excel at that job. But if you look at some of the most successful people, they do multiple things really well. You know, and it's okay. It's okay to try new things. And I tell my girlfriend all the time, the one thing I'm not afraid of is failing. I'm not afraid of failing. I'll try it. If it doesn't work out, I'll figure out why it didn't work out. You know, it's just part of this run.
Just like the marketing.
It didn't work. Just like the marketing. I wasn't able to fund the festival on Kickstarter, but we've already tried to figure out new ways of how to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
It's part of the journey. A lot of people don't like to fail. It's very scary. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then it brings out your insecurities.
Yeah.
You know, because then you just cower down, you know, you hide behind a rock. I think it took a while for me to get to the point where I was comfortable with myself to where even my failures, I don't care if people see them. You know, it's not just personal. If other people see them, I think it builds character. So,
Well, you put it out there.
Exactly.
It does build character. It builds the most character. It's the best learning. You don't want to fail.
No.
Failing sucks.
It does. That is never the goal.
I hate to lose. I'm just as competitive as Kim. I mean, I hate to lose. I love competing, and we compete against each other. We've never been on a team together because we like to compete against each other because we push each other. But at the same time, that's what we love to do. We look at it, and when you fail, it's like, man, I don't want to fail, but I learned a lot from that.
Agreed.
Yeah. No, let's talk. Like, so she's in the room. Your girlfriend's in the room, and she joined you on one. I remember we were going to do this thing over the phone.
Yes, we were.
We were going to do it over the phone right before you finished, which I thought that's a cool idea, actually, right? Like right before, you know, get your feelings while you're out there on the run towards the end when all the pain's in there. But then your girlfriend shows up to do
She
a
actually,
marathon for the first time.
She actually was with the crew for the first 15 days. And then she had obligations, summer school. She had a wedding back in Houston. So she left for about 2 weeks. And then she joined back up the last 2 weeks. And let's say the first 2 weeks she would do she's run half marathons, but she'd do between 4 to 8 miles. You know, she'd walk with me, run with me, 4 to 8 miles, whatever it was. But then I was so into it by the second half. We were doing this thing straight. We were doing 26 miles straight. And so she would do the first half with me. She'd do 13 with me. When we met the crew, she'd get in the car. I'd do the rest of the run. One morning we took off, and it was overcast, and I think that's what set her off, right? Because it was Arizona and it was hot. So I don't know. She'll tell me if she did have intentions of doing it or not. But it was overcast, and it wasn't going away. It felt like, oh, this is gonna last the next 8 hours. And so we pull in to our marker at 13. No, actually, we're pulling in to 13. And she goes, I'm going for it. I'm going for all of it. All 26. I was like, okay. Let's see how this works out.
Let's go.
And that was top 3 moments of the entire run. It's because she had adapted what it took to do a lot of things. The mental toughness is like, nothing is perfect. But when you see an opportunity, just take it. There's not, just take it. You don't know how it's going to work out. It's going to hurt. I remember it was mile 18 or maybe mile 20. She stopped. Almost done. And she just stopped. And then we walked a little bit. And we got to 26. And I think she figured it out. So that was great.
That's awesome.
I know, it was a good feeling.
Yeah, I bet it was nice for you because you get to, like, now you have a partner running with you.
Yes.
Nobody else joined along you the whole time?
No, and we encourage people to join us, but I think when I would get injured, it kind of threw off the dates I had set up. Because I had a map, and I had dates of where I would be in each town.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
On these dates, I'd be here. And when I would get injured or when I went through my surgery, it kind of threw things off. So I think it kind of messed up people's plans of saying, hey, listen, I'm going to take off these days and go run with him. So we didn't get anybody join us on the run, but we had hoped somebody would.
What did you have surgery for? I forgot to go through this. Like, you're in the middle of this and you had surgery. We forgot that you had surgery in between this 45 days.
Oh, man, that was so crazy. Especially because we thought that the reason I was feeling the way I was feeling was because of the running, but it wasn't. It just happened. So I had just crossed into New Mexico. I had done 34 miles on my 34th birthday.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I think the night before I was like, I'm going to do this. I've never done anything over 26, but I'm going to do it. So I did 34 miles, and I was pretty tired. The next day I did the 26 miles. I was fairly tired, but then the next day I only did 24, and I remember posting and telling everybody, hey, I owe you the 2.5, because I think I did like 24.5 or something like that. And I was like, hey, I owe everybody 2.5 miles.
Even though you ran 34.
Right. I was like, well,
math doesn't add up there.
I know. I'll catch up the next day. And it was just exhausting. And plus, going into New Mexico was the first time we were experiencing like some serious heat. And so that night, I woke up in the middle of the night, I think about 1 o'clock, and my tummy was hurting. It was a really sharp pain. And Phil's going to kill me for saying this. Phil's the guy who was in my crew. And he was like, Rob, just take some ibuprofen. It's not that bad. You're just whining. And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, bruh, I've been through a lot of pain. If I tell you it hurts, it hurts. Right? Like, I promise I'm not whining.
But he's probably heard you whine a little bit.
True. And then also, he's tired.
Yeah.
He's having to wake up early in the morning, put a shake together for me. And he's just like, dude, I'm trying to get as much sleep as I can.
Yeah.
And so it happened twice. And that's when he was like, okay, this is serious. This dude's in pain. And so he drove me to the hospital. And they gave me, I don't know, what's the one way? Is it a CAT scan? The one, like the bed? Yeah. Whatever it is, the CAT scan. So they gave me one of those. And the doctor comes back in. And he goes, you're going to need surgery immediately. And I'm just like crushed. I'm crushed. And the reason I'm crushed is multiple reasons. But mainly because I'm like, this is done. There's no way. I don't even know what it's for, but there's no way I can continue. And he could see it in my face, and we ask him, what's the deal? He goes, you need your appendix removed before it gets worse, and you need to do it within the next hour and a half. And where we were, I think we were in Santa Rosa.
Dude, that's where the Blue Hole is. I know exactly
the Blue Hole.
Yeah.
I was just scared to jump in there. It was so cold.
That place is awesome.
It is awesome.
Oh, it feels so good. And you were talking about being hot. It's like 110.
Yes.
And then you jump into a natural hole.
Freezing cold.
It's 60-degree water. Yes. All year round. Yeah.
So you know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. I got videos of me and my son jumping off
We had just got into New Mexico, and it was just so hot.
It is hot right there.
We thought that's what it was, but anyway, he told me I needed an appendix taken out, and
let's go ahead and state that there's not a lot around there.
Nothing. So we had to get in the car in pain, drive, I think, an hour to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was the closest big hospital, and they had coordinated and set up my surgery. So when I went in, I was going straight to surgery. So we got that done, and before I'm sitting with the doctor telling her what I was doing, and she's so excited. She was like, oh, yeah, you seem pretty fit, so this should be, pretty straightforward. but you're not going to be able to continue running. You can't. Because, one, you have glue, and you don't want to break that back open. You just need to not do anything for 6 weeks. And I remember, I'll never forget, I looked at Phil, and I was like, I'm going to run. And I looked at him because I couldn't do it without him.
Yeah.
And I needed his cosign, but we couldn't say it out loud because he probably wouldn't let me out the hospital. And so I look at Phil, and I'm like, we're going to do this, right? And he gave me the eye back like, okay, we'll do it. And
dude,
so,
shout out to Phil.
I know he's my man, and I'm so thankful for him because I know he spoke to my mom, and so I know in his head he's like, I just told this dude's mom like I'm gonna get him home, and so
I'm vouching for you right now.
We do the surgery and we go back to the hotel, and now it's just me and Phil. I'm like, how do you do this? I can't leave tomorrow. We know that, but we can't stay too long because we're on a budget. Financially, we can't stay in Albuquerque too long. So how are we going to do this? So he was like, just take your time, and when you feel you're ready for it, start walking. So I took 1 day off. So I had surgery on Sunday. I took Monday off, got to watch a lot of telly, and then Tuesday we found a park, and I said, you know what? I'm going to do 3 miles. I'm just going to walk 3 miles. I'm not going to run because I don't want this thing to open back up. I'm just going to walk. And I think I documented some of the 3 miles. So for the next 4 or 5 days, I just walked 3.5 miles. And then this is my favorite moment of the entire trip. A Sunday from the day I had surgery, I got up and I ran 30 miles. And so,
no pain, no nothing? Man, were you scared that it was going to bust?
Till today, we look at it every day. It is swollen. It is completely swollen where they went in. And it's just because I haven't had any rest. But also that was another thing that was going on in my head was like, Rob, if you can go through this surgery and run a week after, there's no way you don't get the funding. There's no way that people don't think you're the man for the job. There's no way. Still at $2,500 for a whole week. Still at $2,500 for a whole week.
So what did you hit at the end?
Oh, so I got to give him a shout out if you don't mind. This is
tell everybody. Yeah,
there's a gentleman called Josh Gamble. I have never met this guy before. I think he's a friend of a friend's, and he heard about the story through Facebook. And there was also a KBTX local news interview article that was written about what we were doing. So he got a hold of it, and then he followed me on social media, and just kept kind of like you did, and he just kept up with me from day to day. When he had a chance, he'd check in and see what we were doing. And so he got pretty invested. And so I think it just rubbed him the wrong way. And he was like, this is unbelievable that this young dude is going through this stuff and he's not getting the backing, and he's doing it for us. He's doing it for the city of College Station. So he took his time out and wrote this really nice article on Facebook.
Oh, that guy. Okay. I remember you posting like, dude, I'm so heartbroken. I reposted your thing about that.
I cried.
I reposted your video about that guy posted the article.
So I mean, you get a lot of people posting on Facebook while I'm on the run, and my phone would buzz, and I kind of looked at it. It looked like a long article, so I kind of skimmed through it, but I didn't really read it.
Kind of hard to do that while you're running,
right? And so I stopped. I don't remember where we were, but I stopped to take a break and drink some water. So you know what? Let me read this thing, and that's when I broke down, because for once it wasn't coming from me. Somebody else who had been following closely put everything together and said it, and that's what changed the game. Because when it was coming from me, it was like me selling my story. It was me selling my hardships. It was me selling whatever it was. But when it came from somebody else who didn't know me, I think people felt it a little different, and that just propelled the Kickstarter. I think that within the next 5 days, we went up $8,000
from that article.
From one article. It got 200 shares. Oh man, it got so many likes. So many people were talking about it. I'm so thankful to that guy. I can't wait to meet him now that I'm back in town and give him a hug and tell him how much I care for him.
This is the best. He doesn't even know. Like, you don't even know each other.
I have no clue who this guy is.
He's just. Article.
I mean, I know he's a cool guy. I know
obviously,
that.
Yeah.
He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm so thankful for what he did, because he just was honest about what he was seeing, and he was like, hey, this guy's really working hard for us. The least we can do is give him a few pennies. So That was pretty cool. That was really
awesome,
cool.
man.
It was really cool.
Man, well, tell everybody like what they can do to continue supporting, buy these cool shirts.
Yes. So
whatever else they can do to support this thing.
You can keep up with us on social media. My website is djrob.co. And what our plan is within the next 2 months, we have collected a lot of footage of what we were doing and before the run. We're going to try to put a documentary together, and then we're going to try and premiere it at the Queen in downtown Broward Theater. Oh, and we'll do it free, try and give everybody dinner and free drinks, and then just come support the film. And what we're going to do is use that film to leverage investors and try and make this thing happen.
I love it, man.
Yep.
All right, we'll keep up with him.
So much for
what's your
having
Instagram?
Us. My Instagram is @RobMwandia. That's ROBMWANDIA. And that's on all platforms. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, it's @RobMwandia@yahoo.com. That's my email.
Everybody needs to go follow, man. It's really awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for having us. Man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.